Chapter 13. Your friends, the two you just described, yes, they went through earlier. And me? Oh, I'm sorry, not you, not like that. I'm very sorry. But I had an accident. Anders stepped forward, looking at the young girl to study her reaction. She turned in her chair to face him. Her computer was on, and she typed on her keyboard. Well, that's unfortunate, she said, blushing. It is, and I'm sorry. Very unfortunate, he said. That's why I have no pants. It was my guts. Your guts? She said, pulling her keyboard closer. Yes, he said. I fear needles, you see. I fear them badly. He shuffled on his feet and peered around the reception area, making sure only he was there. In truth, I'm terrified of them. I see, she said, her eyes fluttering between him and her computer screen. I want to help you, but I also want to keep my job. She spoke sincerely now. I've not been here long. I don't want any trouble. She leaned over the countertop on her elbows, moving a pen between her lips, watching him. He rubbed his forehead with his fingers. His headache was getting worse. His stomach felt sickly, and fear, he knew, was getting the better of him. B, he said, reading her name tag, noticing it pinned to her breast pocket. Listen, without this vaccination I can't work. I have no money left. Nothing for rent, nothing for food. I have nothing. He licked his lips, moved his fingers in circles on his temples. My trip, he said, would be over. You're a backpacker? She said. Yes, I am, he nodded. I've been dreaming of seeing Australia for years. Always wanted to travel here, though. He paused and looked at her. Checked he still had her attention. My luck recently has been awful. Things not working out, you know. Nothing going to plan. She took the pen from her mouth, smiling now, touching her neck with her fingers and nodding as he spoke. I want to see your beautiful country, he went on. I want to experience all its wonderful wildlife. B watched him and kept smiling. I want to go to the places I've read about in school, see crocodiles and kangaroos, observe them in their natural habitat, get a photo at Ayers Rock and snorkel the Great Barrier Reef. He paused again, happy she was still smiling. He thought whether to continue or quit while ahead. He chose to continue. What a joke it would be, he said. What a laughingstock I would be. Picture me now returning home to speak of my travels. Anders came onto his tiptoes. He puffed out his chest, speaking in a grandeur manner. Gather round, everyone, while I speak of my tales of Rockhampton. He spoke with fake laughter. Gather, all will be told of the wooden buildings and the Stetson-wearing arseholes, the touchy-feely police officers and the smelly meat factories. B had folded her arms. Her smile was gone. Her pretty face was now twisted and sour-looking. Hang about, she said. What's wrong with Rockhampton? I've lived here my whole life. My uncle wears a Stetson. Anders stepped back as though sucker-punched, caught off guard, stunned on the ropes. His plan was to win her over, not insult her hometown. He went to speak, but nothing came. He stuttered. He fake laughed again as though he was joking. Nothing at all, he said. I love Rockhampton. A lot, a lot, a lot. I bloody love it. For some reason, the word bloody came out in an Australian accent. He blushed, holding his cheeks with both hands. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. He looked at her and saw she was smiling. I'm sorry I said that, B. Just stay here, she said, and don't speak to anyone, okay? He nodded and watched her take keys from her desk. She entered a side door, and through a pane of frosted glass he saw a silhouette. I may have something. She was giggling on the other side of the door. Teddy stayed over last night. Listened to her fumble round what seemed like a small closet. This might actually work. There was excitement in her voice. Yes, she giggled again. This might do it. Dressed in B's black tights and Teddy's Thomas the Tank Engine underpants with small grey socks, Anders entered the L-shaped waiting room, clattered over a wet floor sign, dodged a coffee table covered with magazines and leaflets, and seated himself opposite John and Andrew. Only they were there, and like in the police cell, he was thankful. He surveyed the sky-blue wall showing the same healthcare promoting posters he'd seen in every hospital, doctor's office and clinic he'd ever been in. Though one in particular caught his eye. It was a grumpy-looking gorilla with muscles the size of watermelons and a banana in each hand. Underneath a caption read, Try telling him fruits and vegetables are for wimps. Is this Anders? John said, crossing his feet on the table. You looked better before. He's right, you know, Andrew added, pointing to the tights. Before, you looked accidental. Any fuckwit can lose their pants, but this... He moved his finger near Anders' leg. This all looks pre-planned, as though you've picked from your own wardrobe. It's more disturbing in a way. Anders ignored them, trying to prepare for the needle, trying to keep a relaxed mind. Jesus, he looks pale, John said. Those lips, he said. As blue as death. He's worrying about the needle, Andrew said. Matron will sort him out. There was silence after that, and Anders stared at the poster, gulping, tasting bile and its acidity burning his throat. Hang in there, he told himself. Be strong, strong like the gorilla. I'm not a fan of needles either, John said. Who is? Not me, Andrew said. Have you ever given blood? Anders was beginning to sweat now, and his armpits became damp, turning the crusty t-shirt soft again, as though rehydrating it, releasing nasty odours, like bad meat and foul cheese. He plugged his nose with his fingers. He swallowed and looked at the poster. I've never given blood, John said. I'm not much into that. That's for lonely do-gooders chasing a free biscuit. I tried once, Andrew said. I won't bother again. Why? John asked. Anders quickly looked at them. The nurse messed up, Andrew said. She couldn't find my vein. Tried twice, missed twice. What a waste of your time, John said. Why twice? Why not have another go? Because if they miss twice, that's it. They don't attempt a third. What a shitty experience, John said. It got worse, Andrew said. How? John said. How did it get worse than that? Well, I gave no blood, so I got no biscuit. No hobnob, not even a rich tea. The bastards made sure. They sent me down another lane, a failures lane. A lane that led straight to a car park exit. I was stabbed twice and left with no Scooby snack. I was pretty upset. I was almost as pale as Anders. There were footsteps now. Anders looked away from the poster, seeing a nurse holding her clipboard in hand. Stumpy arms and legs, she stood barely 5 feet tall. Her stoic face wore no makeup, and her hair was cut short like a man's, trimmed at the sides, spiky on top. I have a John Moore, she said from her doorway. John Moore! She lowered her clipboard, looking at Anders, but he made no eye contact with her. He wondered about his indecent exposure. A small town, he thought. Maybe she knew. He kept his head down. He listened to a door closing behind John. Now a man and a woman joined them in the waiting room. The man looked as sickly as Anders. He had chalky skin, was tall and thin and beanpole-like. His wife looked up while he stooped over her, discussion, pestering her for tissues, saying people should be careful where they leave stuff. He pointed to his shoe, lifted his foot, hopping one way then the other. Hurry up, he said, clicking his fingers. Find the tissues, Tracy. He hopped now in front of Anders. Find those tissues. Be quiet, Simon, she said, rummaging through her handbag. You're always whining. No, I'm not, Simon said, scrunching tissues in hand. Just people leaving stuff in doorways. What was it anyway? She ignored him while he lifted his shoe, rubbing its tread with tissues, cleaning away egg and vomit. Sit down, Simon. He sat down. He stretched his long legs under the table and stared gloomily between 2 stacks of magazines. His stillness lasted only seconds. Soon his head was going in all directions, as the nurse called for her next victim. Andrew now, she said. Andrew Braiden. John staggered from her room, holding a paper towel over his upper arm. He looked pasty himself now. He wasn't saying much either. I don't like needles, Simon then said, and he began questioning why Tracy had picked a holiday to somewhere that involved 3 vaccination shots. I don't like needles, he said again. I'm not looking forward to this holiday now. There you go, whining again, she said, as she grabbed a magazine from the table. Read this, she said. Take your mind off it. Take my mind off my holiday, Simon said. I thought one is supposed to look forward to a holiday, though I admit I'm certainly reserved about this one. I don't mean the holiday, you imbecile, I mean the injection. Simon said nothing. He just dangled the magazine before his face and stared vacantly at the tan bodybuilder on the front cover, all buffed up and with oiled skin, dressed in underpants that were almost as tight as Anders, and showing teeth so big and white, one may assume they were piano keys.